biologically, we can all sleep. There is an absolute truth that biologically we can sleep. And we know that because when the brain gets out of the way, that people will say to me sometimes, oh, am I going to die from lack of sleep? No, but you might, because someone is drowsy driving and they've fallen asleep driving. So we know that if your sleep pressure is high enough, you will fall asleep. And that is a biological fact. So a lot of the work I do is about building that pressure so that you can sleep at the time you want to sleep.
Yeah.
So there is something here about being able to lean into the biological fact that you can sleep. That is a truth that I'm always so grateful for. There is something too about the learning of the language, growing up in an atmosphere where people are talking about sleep as though it's this thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, mothers get shamed for everything, don't they? I mean, let's just like, oh, well, I heard it's like, I'm talking about my sleep now, my kids are learning that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, well, of course, but the language we use is really important. The example I often give is that when I was a kid, apparently I announced that I didn't like onions. And to this day, I don't. But my mother says, oh, it's because your dad said he didn't like onions. So we listen and we learn because of course we do. That's what happens. So if the conversation in the home is about sleep is a problem, it will go down the generations. And I might sometimes do a piece of work with someone where we look at the intergenerational relationship to sleep. And it's a really powerful process because why was your grandmother using sleeping pills? Why did your mother suggest earplugs? And that intergenerational aspect of it is a very, very specific work we do in psychotherapy as to and working with sleep, because it's sort of, there could be a really good reason that your nervous system, not just because of neurodiversity, is alert. What is it? What's going on in the home? That thread is huge, absolutely huge, because that logic of there may be a really good reason for this.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
out.
And I know my nervous system is always very hypervigilant and very wired, and it takes a lot for me to, I always say,
That's why you can hear.
I can hear,
that,
and I
yeah.
can't fall asleep in any public places. My husband will sit on a plane and fall asleep before takeoff, but I probably wouldn't. I've never fallen asleep on a train or a bus. Like, I am the person that's always awake until I can literally put my earplugs in. Someone, I don't know where it comes from, but I just know I have a nervous system that is very wired for sort of hypervigilance. I'm sure with several psychotherapy sessions, I'm sure we could get down to it. But would you say that am I using the right word, chronotype? Sleep chronotype. How much is it genetic, biological? Is it, maybe from trauma or learned behavior? And
It's genetic. It is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That in a way frees us from that pressure. It's like, well, that is who I am. My husband is an early riser. I typically fall asleep later and wake up later. I would say mine is probably like 11 till 7. He's maybe 9 till 4:30. It is just what it is. Does that level of acceptance help a lot of people when they just... But then you've got to kind of marry it with your lifestyle and your work and your job. And how do you blend the two together with acceptance?
Well, that's partly why I'm really pro people sleeping separately, because if you can sleep to your genetic chronotype, your sleep is likely to be much better. Because of course, one of the things I think is really bloody unfair with neurodiversity is not only are you having to work really hard about just being in the world, but if you've also got a late chronotype, you're working really bloody hard to manage your sleep. It's like, I'm exhausted thinking about it. But if you can, I mean, I've seen people who decide that they're going to go to bed at 5 a.m. and get up at midday, 1 o'clock, because that's their chronotype. That's fine. If that works for you, happy days. But of course, for the majority of us, it doesn't. So it's that negotiation that goes on between a couple. It's like, well, okay, how are we going to do this? Do we want to sleep together? So how do we do it? What's involved in that? the recognition that each other may have different needs. It's not that I'm going to bed because I'm avoiding you. It's because I'm going to bed because this is my sleep time. It's sort of getting it out on the table and going, this is my timing, this is your timing. We could meet in the middle, but we both have to work at it. And if we're not, how are we going to do it? Because we can work to move clocks, which we do through light, and sometimes a prescriber will prescribe melatonin, and we do it in a very timed fashion. We move people's clocks forwards, backwards, in different directions. But of course, it takes work. So, which is fine, and we have to do it a lot, especially when people are at university. I mean, I don't work under 18, but a really big piece is when people graduate and suddenly they go into the workplace, and all of a sudden we've got to do a really big clock move because they cannot get up in the morning. It's not their fault, it's this biological difference. So, and it's profound in young adults. So working out what your timing is and how the pair of you are going to do this is something that is really a work on every day as to how does this work. Because if we can protect each other's sleep, one of the things someone says to me quite often when I say, well, what about sleeping separately? Oh, well, we'll never have sex again. Well, frankly, you're not having sex now, are you? Better slept, you will, because everything will work much better. Your libido will work better. His testosterone will be better if you're better slept. And yeah, you might have to actively plan date nights, but there's something about that conscious act of the recognition, this is what's going on and this is what we're going to do. Whereas we tend to just let these things drift and not say anything about it. And then all of a sudden we've got a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely food for thought. And, as this well-being arena gets bigger and bigger, and we hear how much sleep impacts our health, we understand the connection now with dementia potentially, and definitely we know that there's this interrelationship between how our ADHD is exacerbated with lack of sleep. I know mine is 100%, and then it's this sort of like chicken and egg situation, isn't it? Yes, it'd be great for our sleep to get better, but it's like our ADHD impacting our sleep, and thankfully, you've got a book that's come out, and the work that you do, we're able to sort of pull it apart a little bit. What are your thoughts on the impact? Again, I said about the case studies in the book, there's quite a lot of case studies regarding tech, phones, phone addiction. I've got a 20-year-old son at university. Everything you were just saying then, it hits home very, very hard. I know he goes to bed crazy hours, and he's always struggled with getting up in the morning. He's got a couple more years at uni, and then he's out in this big bad world where, unfortunately, he's probably going to have to change his circadian rhythm quite a bit. Well, I say unfortunate, it's probably a good thing, but
It's okay. I mean, finding out if delayed sleep phase is part of his process is useful when he's at uni. So if he has ADHD,
it does.
I would definitely speak to a sleep specialist and look at his circadian, because learning, is this a thing and how you're going to manage it? Now's a good time to do it.
What are your thoughts on social media, phones, tech? Like you've been working in this have you been working in this space long enough to see the pre and the post? And
so almost, but I've had a really progressive sort of changing relationship dynamic with it over when I first started working in sleep. We were really militant, no phones because of the light and blah blah blah. But I started to see over the years real distress in people when you take the phone out of the picture. I've seen full-on panic in people when I'm asking them to put their phone down for a duration of time. And it's not our fault. These phones have been designed by geniuses to keep us hooked. I can't remember whether I say it in this book or the previous one. They know they're monetizing our attention. They know they're doing it.
yeah,
There's a quote from a guy who was at Google who talks about it. So we are being hooked in by very powerful forces to use these devices. So I'm often having to work with people of any age. It's not just kids, every age, on our connection, our attachment to our phone, because it's become an attachment object. And it's staggering when you take the phone away. People are like, well, I don't know what to do with myself now. And that's really, really tricky, because we have to, from a sleep perspective, there could well be a period where you are going to be awake. Now, I'm not completely anti devices, because they are, if you can use it as a tool, and you can have you prepare, you've got a list of, I know the podcast that I'm going to listen to, I might listen to this yoga nidra, I might, and you know there's a resource that you can go to on your device, fine, happy days. But if you can't avoid getting sucked into social media and everything else that's there, then we've got this problem with it. So it's working out someone's relationship to this tool that can be really useful. Is it useful for you? Is it not? And how are we going to do it? Because they're here, they're not going anywhere. That attachment object is like, wow, do you know what to do if you haven't got a phone?
Yeah. And I think you're right in saying that it's been here for so long now, that attachment to it. And it's hard to just turn around and go, right, phone's out of the room. I know it's best practice, good sleep hygiene, but in reality, that black
That
and
can cause more
white.
stress.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that there's like people listen to podcasts, like sleep podcasts, and like hypnotherapy and all of that. So it is trying to find that healthy balance. Before we close, I wanted to ask you about sleep apnea and the connection with ADHD. What do you see, and what is that connection, and why are we more prone to sleep apnea?
I'm really glad you've asked, because I think if you've read the section in the book, you'll know that I'm really passionate about it. Sleep apnea is really common, and it's massively underdiagnosed. There's a lot of stigma about going for sleep apnea treatment. It can be working in a sleep clinic. It can be, you'd often see a wife dragging her husband in, and I know it might sound like I'm generalizing, but that is the pattern I've seen. Because she's got secondary insomnia from his snoring, and it's driving her mad, and they're on the verge of divorce. You treat sleep apnea, it's a game changer. The thing that's really hard with ADHD is, if you're sleep deprived, your hunger hormones invert, so you don't know that you're satisfied or full. So I'm talking about when you're getting about 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night on a long-term basis. So if we've got that in play, there's a chance that you're going to gain weight, and weight gain is one of the triggers for apnea. But in ADHD, there's a massive link to binge eating. So we've got this situation where your coping strategy and that's how I see it, binge eating is a coping strategy for stress. So you're binge eating and you're gaining weight, so you have apnea, and then we're trying to sort out the binge eating, and then we're trying to sort out the relationship to it, because we're trying to bring your weight down, because you're in this cycle.
And drinking, I
Of,
guess, as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's either or. I mean, it's that the binge eating piece is so not recognized and not talked about, and it's so common.
It is very common. It is. And
And
it's
of
that
course,
dopamine seeking,
yeah.
self-soothing, calming, decompressing. It, like you say, it can sort of come in all different ways, whether it's scrolling, gambling,
Yeah.
eating. There's a common denominator there with ADHD, that we seek something to either.
It's that fix.
Correct.
But of course, then we gain weight, and if we have apnea, we then and we don't know we've got apnea. We're then fragmenting our sleep, and we are sleep deprived. So we've got ADHD, we're binge eating anyway. We're then sleep deprived, so we're inverting our hunger hormones, so we don't know we're full and satisfied. And this loop is really tough.
What do you do with someone that comes to you and says, I think I've got sleep apnea? Like, what is the sort of the course there?
Everyone I see, I screen, and sleep apnea is part of the screening, and I will always immediately refer on either through the NHS or privately, because there are lots of, I mean, there's about 80 different sleep disorders. Some are psychological in origin. That is something that needs to be treated medically. That's a structural, respiratory, piece of work that it's not a behavioural. This bit that I'm talking about is behavioural, but actually you need to see a doctor. And there's things like narcolepsy. There's different things that I will always refer onwards, always, no question. But alongside that, I might be looking at how does it feel? Okay, you get an apnea diagnosis. What does it feel like to use the mask? Because the claustrophobic aspect of using the mask could be something we're working on. Okay, you have sleep apnea and you work shifts. How are we going to manage that? There's lots of different configurations to how that might show up from a behavioural perspective. But always, it's part of my screening straight up. If I suspect, immediate referral, because it can change your life getting treatment for sleep apnea.
Absolutely.
Really genuinely can.
Yeah, and that's only going to make your ADHD worse if you're not getting good quality sleep and disjointed sleep
And sleep apnea sleep deprivation can look like ADHD. So thankfully, I'm not in the territory of diagnosis, but I am aware of people who have had ADHD diagnosis, and actually, it's sleep apnea.
Wow, so interesting. I know we mentioned right at the beginning about the different sleep chronotypes. I'm not going to ask you to name all the disorders because we know you go into such fantastic detail, but can you just very quickly give us some of the chronotypes that people might be able to relate to?
There is a book by I think it's Michael Bruce, has got lots of different chronotypes, but I work with you're either an early bird, intermediate, in the middle, or a night owl, and then there's extremities of. So keep it very simple. There's three. Quite often early birds are married to night owls. That's a really, it seems to be normal.
Because we need someone to get up with the kids.
Yeah, and that's it. It's that ancestral tribal piece.
Yeah.
Somebody in the tribe always needs to be awake.
Yeah.
That's why we have different chronotypes.
It's so true that actually. I think about my friends, and there's always the one that needs to get into bed early and is okay, good in the morning, and one that tidies the kitchen and sorts the house out, and they're flat out on the couch.
But it's all our energy levels as well during the day. Chronotype affects so much. So we've all got energy peaks and troughs at different times. And yet we all seem to think we can just go all the time, not recognizing we do. It's that there's a natural up and down.
Yeah.
And we do it at different times. And often people with ADHD, there's a big energy boost in the evening.
Absolutely.
So it's the circadian and chronotype difference is massive in this work. It's a huge thing.
Yeah, it feels like you were really just scratching the surface, and thank goodness that you've written such a comprehensive book. I would highly recommend it, but not only to people, but I would say, psychologists, therapists, doctors, people that really need to understand the connection between ADHD, neurodivergence and sleep, because it's not discussed enough. And purely just to say, sort your sleep hygiene out or prioritize sleep, that is not helpful.
Yeah, don't get me ranting on sleep hygiene and prioritizing sleep. Sleep doesn't like attention. The more we focus, like insomnia's best friend is perfectionism, and the more pressure we put on it, sleep's like, get me out of here.
So true.
It doesn't respond to tight attention, tight routines at all. There's a pressure to it. It needs you to let go.
Yeah.
So sleep hygiene for me is very basic. Keep it cool, calm and quiet. Get up at the same time every night. I take a very basic approach to these things because I work on the biological underpinnings that your body knows how to do it. And we try and stabilize a lot of that so that the psychological work becomes easier.
Yeah, there's so much anxiety, isn't there, around sleep? And just like you say, let's simplify it.